Cassie Larson and Wally Mars have been best friends for years. But his one mistake, which leads him to become her accidental sperm donor, changes everything. 7 years ago in New York City, Wally feels like everyone is a part of a race as they try to reach from one place to another. He knows they crave connections, and while it happens easily for some people, others like him end up living a less romantic and more messy life. As he walks down the street, a homeless guy starts giving names to people and calls him a beady-eyed man-child. Cassie asks him not to take this seriously, but he's also worried about a health issue and shows her a picture of his scrotum where he thinks there's a growth. As he's an analyst interested in stocks, Cassie shows him a chart and asks for his opinion on a share, and knows she'll ask her to sell it. She explains that a woman's fertility looks like that after a certain age and wants him to be the first to know she's thinking of having a baby. She consulted a doctor who is happy with her vitals but thinks timing is important. This made her realize that things are going well with her job and she wants to focus on a baby without waiting for a man to come along. He wonders if this is about her ex, Paul, and asks her not to rush into anything. But she's tired of listening to advice from people and feels like she's ready to look for a sperm donor. Wally is always paranoid about things and shares a story he heard about a woman in Queens who thought her baby's father was an athlete, but it turned out to be a homeless guy. She knows he just made this up to scare her and asks him for his support since she has some interviews lined up. He wonders if he can donate his sperm, but she thinks it'll be weird because they are friends. She also thinks he's neurotic, self-absorbed, and very pessimistic, but this is about her, and she asks him to deal with her decision. Leonard thinks Wally has every right to feel upset about Cassie rejecting his sperm, since she also insulted him already by putting him in the friend zone 6 years ago. Leonard knows Wally once had an actual chance with Cassie, but he ruined it by being his usual self. He thinks Wally shouldn't share too much information too soon, but he wonders which of Leonard's 3 failed marriages taught him this. Debbie asks if Wally is also coming to her 30th birthday party, and when she learns another girl dumped him, she feels like none of his relationships ever last. Cassie pauses to give talking points to the minister but continues praising Wally and how much she appreciates how blunt he is. She knows he runs away as soon as things get intimate, but there's no one she trusts more than him. As they walk to Debbie's party, Cassie discusses how she wants a donor she can meet personally, which doesn't usually happen at the sperm bank, and wants it to be fresh and not frozen. Debbie asks Wally to join her for a dance, but he teases her about breaking the floor herself. He notices Cassie talking to Declan, who is a writer and director, passionately describing how great it is to work in the movies. Wally tries to take her away so they can eat something, but Declan starts asking him for stock tips. He claims everything is going up and he should invest, but when Cassie mentions he told her to get out, he takes her away. Wally knows Declan is married and lying about his divorce because he saw a tan line in the place where a ring should be. When she shares that she is considering him as the sperm donor, he locks her alone and turns up the music so no one listens to her knocking. He informs Declan that Cassie left for her drug dealer's house and writes down an address for a love shack he can meet her at since he thinks she's interested. Cassie is mad Wally sent Declan to Washington Heights and insists she was only considering the idea and wasn't actually going to make him the donor. When she asks why he's being weird, he claims he doesn't support the baby decision and wonders what will happen if she meets someone naturally and falls in love. She doesn't think she can hold out that hope much longer and knows this is not how she imagined she will become a mother. But now that she's doing it since it's practical and very hard, she was hoping she could count on him without his judgment. She suggests they should take a timeout for a while, but he doesn't take it too maturely and thinks he will see her soon. It's been a week since they met and Wally seems very anxious as he works out. One day, when he picks up his mail and heads home, he finds an invitation from Cassie about a getting pregnant party. He feels the party looks very weird and asks Debbie why someone would throw an insemination party. The party is Debbie's idea since everyone does it these days, and she explains that Cassie will go into a room soon and do the deed with a bastard. When he worries about how dirty it looks, she clarifies that she's joking and there's a proper medical device for it. He starts eating a lot and goes to clean something he dropped on his shirt. Roland introduces himself as the sperm donor and offers him a drink. He shares that he's donating because he and his wife Jessica need the money. He's an assistant professor at Columbia and knows life gets tough on his salary. Debbie puts a Viking crown on him before sending him to a special room where things are set up so he can donate. Wally finds Cassie looking out a window and they discuss how gorgeous Roland is. But she admits she is scared and thought throwing a party might make things fun. But now she's depressed and is sure he thinks she's crazy. Wally thinks her wanting to have a child is natural and assures her she'll be fine. Wally is a lot more drunk when Debbie toasts to Roland. She makes another toast to Cassie for being an inspiration for all of them. A song starts playing and Debbie asks everyone to dance. Cassie wants Wally to join her too, but he's too drunk to know where he's going. When he keeps knocking on the door of an occupied bathroom, the woman tells him to use the other one. Everything seems blurred to him when he enters and gets amused by all Cassie's charts. He feels relieved after peeing, but when he's wiping his face, he notices Roland's sample. He opens it and starts playing around with it, and eventually drops it when someone knocks on the door. When he realizes it's gone, he looks at the cup and gets an idea. He finds a magazine with Diane Sawyer on the cover and gets to work to fill the cup with his specimen. He is still drunk the next day in office when Leonard asks why he turned up at his place at 3 a.m. completely drunk and saying weird things. He remembers Wally mentioning Vikings and Diane Sawyer from Good Morning America, but none of it rings a bell for him. Wally only remembers going to Cassie's party, after which he blacked out. After a one-man play, Wally doesn't want to stay for the second half. She informs him that she's pregnant, and shares her plans of moving to Minnesota since she doesn't think New York is a great place to raise a child. Cassie moves away after 2 weeks but gets him a dog before she leaves. They promise to stay in touch, but it becomes difficult since she is a single mom and he lives in New York. They end up exchanging some Christmas cards and emails at most. 7 years later, after 2 failed relationships, 1 market crash and many blind dates, he finds himself exactly where Cassie left him. On his first date with Pauline, who really likes him and is surprised he's still single, he starts joking about her trying to take him off the market. But his descriptions about a possible future for them get very dark when he starts talking about how they'll end up resenting each other, and this makes her feel uncomfortable. He's feeling very stupid about another failed date when he hears a message from Cassie, informing him that she's moving back to New York as she got an amazing job offer and has found a great school for Sebastian. He starts planning where they can meet and she's excited about him meeting Sebastian. He plans to get a basketball for him, but she claims he's not athletic and collects empty picture frames. He ignores Debbie's question about why he didn't accept her friend request and picks up one of the frames from his office for the gift. He finds Cassie in the restaurant and she's very excited to see how he's dressing up more now. She wants him to know if Sebastian acts strange. It's only because he's still adjusting to the move. Wally feels strange when he looks at Sebastian for the first time, who comes over to tell Cassie he might have a disorder because he doesn't feel anything when he looks at sharks. He's not interested in Wally and is more worried about symptoms like hyperactivity and loss of interest. Cassie keeps warning him against internet searches and tries to distract him with Wally's gift. Sebastian was hoping to get the picture that comes with the frame and knows it's used, so he doesn't want it. Wally tries to get Sebastian excited about the expensive duck he pre-ordered for them, but Sebastian refuses to eat it because of what people do to ducks at waterfowl farms where they force-feed them with plastic tubes, and they end up getting liver disease. He thinks nature is in danger and doesn't care if Wally has spent money on it, but knows he'll hate him if he eats it. When Cassie asks him not to use strong words, he decides to settle for eating rice with soy sauce, and Cassie feels this kind of compromise means he likes Wally. Cassie wants them to spend more time together and asks him to look after Sebastian for a few hours that weekend, when she goes for a parent orientation at his new school. Cassie loves Sebastian and talks about how he thinks she's a lesbian because she has used the seed guy. Even if he keeps running around and does what he wants, Cassie loves how willful he is and considers everything, so it never gets boring with him. When he asks her to elaborate on the seed guy point, she explains that it's the story she told him about where he came from. She has told Sebastian that she didn't have a husband but wanted him in his life. So she went to a doctor who suggested that she can find a person who gives her a special seed she can plant in her tummy to give birth to him. She has read many books on motherhood but feels like nothing can prepare you for the day your kid comes back asking questions because someone teased him for being a science experiment at school. When they head inside, she gets a text from Roland and explains that she wants to stay in touch with him because she hopes he can answer questions when Sebastian grows up. She even wants them to meet at some point and explains it's not an issue with his wife because he's divorced. Roland explains that he got divorced when his ex-wife cheated on him and might still have trust issues, but he doesn't want to discuss that. Cassie wants him to know she doesn't expect anything from him except answers to a few questions, but Roland feels honored that she called because he kept wondering about what happened to her and his seed. He's excited to see a picture of him and feels like he sees a lot more of himself in Sebastian than her. He wants her to know he respects her a lot, and they both think this meeting is going way better than expected. Wally brings Sebastian to the zoo and notices him standing exactly like him when they're watching penguins. Sebastian invites him to his birthday and Wally hopes he enjoys it while he can, because he believes being old sucks and most people don't accomplish what they want to. He asks if Wally is worried about getting Parkinson's disease, but Wally clarifies that he's generally worried about diseases he doesn't have, which Sebastian knows happens to him too. Sebastian isn't keen on talking about his school, so Wally knows he has a bully because he has been there too. Sebastian reveals that Aaron O'Connor is a lot bigger than him and knows karate. Wally suggests that he should act crazy in front of him, since unpredictable people scare everyone. A woman on the bus smiles at them and thinks Wally and Sebastian look exactly alike. When they find Cassie, Sebastian is very excited about the day he spent with Wally. He watches as Cassie tells him some stories before bedtime and goes to the couch to look at some old pictures. When she joins him, he shows her one of a costume party they went to on their second date. He remembers she kissed him that night and she claims she was just in character as the Playboy bunny. But she also remembers that he disappeared that night when he was supposed to take her home. And he thinks that sounds exactly like him because he runs away when things get intense. She looks at him differently and smiles, but when Sebastian calls out to her again, he claims he has an early morning too and leaves. That night, as he watches Diane Sawyer on the news, something seems strangely familiar. He calls Leonard in the morning and wants to discuss how he has noticed a lot of similarities between him and Sebastian, and thinks the kid seems to be his more than the Vikings. The term Viking seems familiar to Leonard and he asks him to come over. From his drunken banter 7 years ago, Leonard remembers him mentioning something about trading the Viking to Diane Sawyer. They're not sure what it means, but Wally starts considering the possibility that he might have switched Roland's sperm with his. When they discuss if Wally had access to the sperm, he starts remembering things and knows he did it. He feels bad about hijacking Cassie's pregnancy and feels like a horrible person. Leonard remembers he was very drunk at the time and was clearly not thinking properly. Wally knows he needs to inform Cassie about this immediately and goes to her house. Sebastian opens the door and claims to have insomnia, which is why he can't sleep. While he waits for Cassie to get out of her bath, Sebastian keeps switching channels consistently. This irritates Wally and he snatches the remote because he thinks they're going to be in each other's lives for a long time and need to do this properly. Cassie finds them fighting for the remote, but he takes her outside to talk. He starts by explaining how important she is to him and that he doesn't want to lose her by saying something uncomfortable. She stops him midway since she has noticed this energy between them recently and asks if he's trying to tell her that he has feelings for her. When he seems confused and denies it, Cassie feels very awkward and starts blabbering about things being complicated and her being stuck in this Roland thing. He gets distracted by her mentioning Roland and wants to know what she means. She explains that she has been spending a lot of time with him recently, which seems almost like dating, but she hasn't told Sebastian about him being the donor yet since she needs to keep some boundaries. When he keeps asking more questions and even Sebastian also refuses to listen to her, she feels like both of them are driving her crazy. Sebastian knows she has a boyfriend, but Wally doesn't think a few dates count. Wally reaches for Sebastian's birthday party and asks Cassie about the energy thing she mentioned, but she doesn't want to get into it. Roland comes down after a round of rock climbing and remembers Wally from the conversation they had all those years ago. When Wally wants to give Sebastian his gift, Roland asks to take it so he can put it with the other gifts. As Roland tries to get Sebastian ready, he refuses to climb the wall even if he explains they can't let the whole birthday party around rock climbing go to waste. Cassie explains that Sebastian wanted to have the party at a shelter for dogs to encourage people to adopt, but she thought this idea would be more athletic and fun for him. She hears Sebastian screaming about how high he is, but the instructor is unbothered and asks him to have fun. Roland climbs up to bring him down, but Sebastian tries his best to push him away and shouts at Roland for throwing him the worst birthday party ever, because he hates the wall. Sebastian runs to Cassie and Wally for support before she takes him away. When Wally tries to assure Roland that things will get better, he wants to meet up later for drinks. Roland starts describing how beautiful Michigan is and shares that he's planning to take Cassie there in a few weeks. When Wally tries to leave after a bit, he wants to share how bad he feels that Sebastian hates him. Roland thinks he has some rough edges, worries a lot and seems a bit neurotic, which is everything he just can't relate to as his father. Wally suggests it might be good that Sebastian has a specific way of looking at things, but Roland notices Wally has the same rough edges. Roland is still determined and is sure he'll get through to Sebastian, because he is crazy about Cassie and hopes Sebastian can get out of this dark phase. Wally finds Roland very irritating since he keeps talking too much and is asking advice on how to get close to his own son. He has come to a shop with Leonard to find a specific frame from the new line Sebastian wants. Leonard wonders why he's still waiting to tell Cassie that he is the father. Wally thinks the situation has changed since the time Cassie mentioned they might have some energy between them, and finally admits he has feelings for her, which Leonard already knew 13 years ago. He knows she's falling for Roland and he can save all of them the trouble by telling her the truth, but he's very scared of the outcome. Wally gets a call from Cassie, who is in Michigan with Roland at a cabin, which he knows has been in the family for 30 years. She didn't know Wally and Roland were close enough to discuss such things but asks for a favor. Sebastian wanted to spend that weekend with Liam, and she let him go since he has very few friends. But Liam's mother just called informing that Sebastian has lice, and she hopes Wally can help her by bringing Sebastian back to the house. Sebastian is relieved to see Wally coming to get him, and as per Cassie's instructions, they shop for lice medicine and garbage bags so they can disinfect the whole place and his clothes before he showers. Wally washes his hair and uses a little comb to take out the lice without making a big deal of it, so Sebastian doesn't panic. As he tucks him in bed, he announces that Sebastian is officially free of lice. But he notices his picture frame collection and wonders why Sebastian doesn't put his own photos in them. Sebastian claims he knows the people in the stock photos and explains through a made-up story about what the family in the photo does. He thinks a photo of a man fishing is of his grandfather who taught his father how to find sharks. When Wally starts feeling bad, Sebastian asks about his father's family. Wally has never met them because his father left when he was very young. Sebastian picks out a frame for him with the father and son and asks him to keep it, which makes Wally more emotional, and he kisses him on the forehead before switching off the lights. Wally and Sebastian are trying to make pancakes and bonding when Cassie turns up to notice how happy Sebastian seems. He is excited to see Cassie back and brags about both of them hunting down and killing the lice. She thanks him for taking care of Sebastian and discusses how great her weekend was. She shares that she's planning to take Sebastian to the cabin too in a few weeks, after which she has also decided to move in with Roland. Wally thinks it's a terrible idea and feels Roland isn't good for her, but she doesn't want him ruining this for her again with all his judgment. When he keeps reminding her how Roland was married recently and is only trying to use her and Sebastian to cushion his blow, she feels bad that Wally is exactly the same when she's trying to move on with her life. She is very happy with Roland and knows Wally will never change, but doesn't want him to put her down when she is finally trying to let someone into her life. Wally has no reply for this, and when Roland comes over to thank him for being on lice patrol, he takes off his shower cap and leaves. Wally is all alone again for a long time. But one day, Sebastian knocks on his door because he's injured after he took Wally's advice and acted crazy at his friend Ethan's party. His act didn't matter to Aaron, who still beat him up, and Wally feels very bad about this. He realizes the party was 20 blocks away, so he tries to call Cassie to take him back. But Sebastian wants Wally to take him home and claims he came there because he thought Wally would be proud of him. Cassie gets scared when she looks at his scars, and Wally apologizes for giving him really bad advice a very long time ago. She finds it weird that Sebastian went directly to Wally and shares that Roland's family is over for brunch. Debbie comes to take him inside, but Sebastian keeps looking back at Wally. He explains to Roland that he got into a fight with other kids, but Roland hopes this will make him stronger since he used to fight a lot with his brothers. He wants to introduce Wally to his brothers but takes out a ring from his pocket first to show it to him. Wally apologizes and leaves to urgently confess everything to Cassie. When he tries to tell her the truth, Roland calls out to both of them to take a seat since he has an announcement. When Roland starts a speech about how he was in a dark place a few months ago till Cassie got him out of it, Wally keeps whispering to her to let her know how urgent this is. Wally cuts Roland mid-speech and addresses Cassie to let her know how scared he got with Sebastian that day. He apologizes to Roland because he thinks he's a great guy and doesn't want to do this to him, but continues with his speech. He points out that when Sebastian needed someone that day, he came directly to him because he needs him. He confesses that he hijacked her pregnancy and replaced Roland's sperm with his. He apologizes for being reckless and claims he's not brave enough to take risks like her. He knows she might never forgive him for this, but feels like his heart is breaking without letting her know the truth. He also admits that he loves her and feels like she and Sebastian have changed him. She walks away, but when Sebastian and Debbie finally come out, Cassie slaps him and asks him to never speak to them again. Wally apologizes to Roland about ruining his proposal and comes over to Sebastian to let him know he's proud of him. Wally wakes Leonard up at 4 a.m. to let him know he faced his fears, but still ended up losing Cassie and Sebastian. Now he's just drunk and doesn't think his life can ever get better. Wally and Cassie try to move on with their lives, but something seems different. He finds her outside his office one day and she explains that after giving it a lot of thought, she has decided she doesn't want him to disappear from Sebastian's life. She still thinks he should meet him on her terms, but knows Sebastian has missed him a lot. When he asks how things are with Roland, she admits she couldn't go through with it because even if he's perfect, he is not Wally. He's finally very happy to hear this and asks if she'll marry him before he kisses her. Wally used to think everyone was running a race, but knows there are moments when things slow down and fall into place. After taking care of the barbecue, he comes to the kitchen to flirt with Cassie in front of the kids. She asks him to take the ice cream out, and as Leonard plays a birthday song for Sebastian, Cassie brings out his cake. She informs everyone that Sebastian has decided to dedicate that birthday to a 3-legged dog called Doug who is in need of a home and is next in line at the kill shelter. Sebastian refuses to blow out the candles till someone adopts him, so Debbie offers to take him and everyone claps for her. Sebastian is satisfied and finally blows out the candles on his cake. The photo frames in their house now have photos of all of them and their friends. After something unexpected like this happened with him, Wally now thinks humans aren't involved in any race after all.